Well, we're back for another podcast, AJ, and I want to tell you about a recent conversation I had with a new client. And it was absolutely fascinating because he has a multi-million-dollar business. He's super successful. And what he's loved about the business is just doing it. And his partner would do all the business stuff and handle all the business details. So he never had to fool with that until recently when his partner left. He was telling me about, you know, all of his doubts and concerns and suspicions and the anxiety he's under. And I guess I've been doing this so long on the business side of business. I just kind of like, it's like rolling off a log for me. I had lost touch with how much anxiety there is or must be for someone who really doesn't know what's happening on the business side of the business. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get you business savvy.
Welcome to the Live Truly Free podcast, where we provide fatherly guidance to entrepreneurs at any level of their journey. Hi, I'm George Black, and this is AJ. Are you ready for this week's adventure of building great companies and discovering the Live Truly Free lifestyle for entrepreneurs? Awesome. Let's get started.
That's what I can deliver for you is business savvy. And when I said that, he just lit up and he goes, that's exactly what I need.
But how are you going to get him business savvy? You already said he's the operational partner. I feel like business savvy is more of it's something you can learn it in school maybe, or you acquire it a little bit over time. But I feel like at a certain point, you either it's one of those traits that you have it or you don't. It's like a basketball player. At some point, you can either shoot or you can't.
So you're saying, is business savvy genetic or is it taught? Is it learned?
Yeah, I guess yeah, I mean, when you put it that way, it doesn't it doesn't sound as much as I think about it. But I'm thinking about it more in terms of the sense you'll see movies and TV shows about these great pioneers in business world, even or fictional characters in the business world, and it just seems like they always have just this sixth sense where it's when they decide something, that's the right answer, right. And that's how it goes. And that's kind of what we're told about the visionaries of the past, Henry Ford or Steve Jobs, anybody who kind of blazed the trail in business. You just say, oh, they're business savvy. They got that sixth sense. That's what they have. It's a gift.
Yeah. Okay. I would imagine, yes, I think, first of all, I think some people just kind of have a knack. They're born with it, but it's no different than any other passion that you're born with, right? And so you may have more of a propensity toward the business savvy part of the business, but I think business savvy, like I'm talking to this man about, can absolutely be learned, because I think as an entrepreneur business owner, you've got to have a certain level of business savvy, and I think you can learn it. I don't think you have to have it imbued from on high or something like that.
So you think it's more of a skill that can be developed like any other skill? Like you can go improve your Excel skills, or you can go learn to code or something like that. You think business savvy is a skill just like that can be taught and learned and practiced?
Yeah. So what is business savvy?
That's again the best way I can refer to it is that sixth sense. You just you have that feeling and you know what to do in a business situation.
If business savvy is a feeling, then it's genetic.
Yeah.
I'm using a little different approach. I think business savvy is, another way to say it is business acumen. Okay. So it's a practical business knowledge. In other words, it's how does business work? And my experience with entrepreneurs is they start off doing what they really love, what they're passionate about. If they're good, they've stumbled into their passion, or they found their passion. They read my book, they focus their passion. But they do that, and the business stuff starts to come up and they start to just deal with it however best they can. I think business savvy is, I'm going to intentionally focus on the business part of the business, and I'm going to get good at that too.
That actually reminds me of something another mentor of mine would talk to me about, in terms of one of her quotes was, when she goes into a room, she says, I know I'm never the smartest person in the room, but I'm always the most prepared and the most organized. And her thinking behind that is she's going to read as much about every situation, about the present situation as possible, and just be more well read than everybody else in the room, and know what other scenarios can happen and be prepared for all those contingencies before they even happen, which other people kind of haven't done. Which to me, that sounds like business acumen or business savvy, in the sense that she knows what to do in a business scenario.
Right, right. So, with a basic business understanding, you begin to learn how to navigate business risks and opportunities and turn them into profitable situations.
Hmm.
And I
So
think,
it's like you prepare for those situations, and you, because of your preparation, you find a way to turn them into a profitable endeavor for you.
right. It's kind of like, okay, so I wrote a book called The Next Level Entrepreneur. It's on Amazon. And after I wrote the book, I'm like, now what do I do? And so I spent some money, went to a group class by a guy who's launched a lot of books, paid a lot of money to get training from him on launching a book. And he said this: I'll bet you didn't write your book thinking you were going to have to learn how to market it. I go, you're exactly right. And I'll bet guys, you didn't start your business thinking, "Oh, I've got to learn how to be a business person."
Yes.
And
And in that specifically, I feel like accounting is the one that gets overlooked.
well, that's what people think. They think, "Oh, I got to learn accounting or whatever." I'm like, "No, you don't." What you but business savvy is, and this is what I told this new client. I said, "What you need to learn is not how to do it. What you need to learn is how to lead it." That's business savvy. You need to know what information you need to lead your company from a business standpoint, from a financial standpoint, and you need to know how to direct the people producing that information for you.
That makes a lot of sense. It's it because business really all it is information processing and situation analysis. Um,
That
understanding
sounds
all.
awfully wonky, like you just got out of school.
Yeah, I did. But
Yeah,
I
okay.
was trying to simplify something there, but I guess I didn't.
I'm going
That's
to call you out. Sorry, I'm going to call you out on this because it's like that sounds great until you get in the trenches and the battle starts.
well,
And the
because
bullets are flying, so to speak.
yeah. What I'm trying to say is, like, I'm trying to simplify it and then I made it more complicated. But really it's like all businesses is you're put in a situation and there's all this information surrounding the situation, and you have to figure out a way to influence that situation.
So if you go to my homepage, livetrulyfree.com, scroll down to where it says approach, and you're going to see a blue triangle. And this is this is kind of distillation of like 25 years of experience. So imagine a triangle, and at the lower left-hand corner, it says understanding your numbers. And at the lower right-hand corner, it's mapping your direction. And you can begin in either corner, but these two things are fundamental in shaping your future to be creating sustainable growth and profitability and enjoying it, having greater fulfillment as you do it.
And when you say mapping your direction, what do you mean by when you say the verb mapping? What do you like? What does that actually entail? How do you map your direction?
That's great because, yeah, and honestly, that whole side of the triangle is what my book is about. And with a practical process that you can apply called the Next Level Navigator. The reason I use the word mapping is twofold. One, you need to know your direction, where you're going as a company, as a business owner, entrepreneur, but you also need to start mapping that direction. Like, how am I going to get there? What is the terrain going to look like? What's ahead of me? Like market conditions, competition. I mean, that's all the landscape we're in. You've picked a particular arena to be in, a particular product or a particular service. Well, what are the conditions? Where do you want to go? And then what are all of the, landscape of the road conditions? Are there canyons you got to cross? Are there, does that make sense? I'm kind of mixing an
Yeah.
analogy up a little bit
So
there.
there's two kind of key points in there that I wanted to highlight, and I think are like, if we want to distill exactly what you mean by mapping your direction, it almost sounded to me like understand your market and develop strategies to operate within that market. So that's kind of the market analysis and strategy side of the business, is mapping your direction.
Well, that's a piece of it, but I don't think that's enough
Okay.
because people, if there's other stuff going on, like things outside of your maybe whatever your service is, but could affect you. Like, are we going into a recession? What are the economic conditions in your particular locale? Or are you limited by geography? So there's all these sweeping questions, and it's not just marketing. See, to me, marketing's too narrow. It's how do I defeat the competition? There's thousands of competitors in this space. How do I break into it?
Yeah, I guess that's what I meant by market, not just marketing, which I guess is a very common or very
Right.
commonly thought of is people go straight to marketing when they think of market. I meant everything that you just talked about.
Okay.
What's going on macroeconomic? You have
Yep.
thousands of competitors across the world. How do they treat their employees? Like, what are the industry standards we have to operate in here? What do customers expect when they come into one of our establishments? Like, answering every question there is about the arena that you're in.
Right. And I do think so with the word macro, there's macro versus micro. We're not looking at the tiny stuff. We're looking at the big stuff when we're
Yeah.
mapping the direction. Now, the thing is, the top of the triangle is what I just described. Was That's where you've created sustainable growth and profitability. So you've got growth and profitability with greater fulfillment. That's where we're headed. Okay. And we want to make that sustainable. So on the mapping your direction side, you have to come up with strategies to turn into actions. So strategies are big, actions are tactical. So we're gonna turn our strategies into actionable actions to get us up there.
Yeah. So your strategies are how you navigate the market
Or
and get to a sustainable point of profitability.
yeah, whatever's out there, whatever you've got to, yes, whatever conditions you've got.
Exactly.
Um, yeah, we could bring in weather conditions too, like rain and
Yeah.
headwinds, economic headwinds.
Yeah.
On the other side of the triangle, like I said, is understanding your numbers. And I use the word numbers because it's not always just financials. There could be other metrics and things like that. In fact, there need to be other metrics, not just
Yeah.
your financials. What you need to start doing is making decisions based on your numbers, and that starts to move you up the other side of the triangle. So both converge at the sustainable growth and profitability. And by the way, all this in the center is our process is all sourced in your passions. And so that's how we sustain greater fulfillment. Well, let me tell you a story, because what I am finding with entrepreneurs is a lot of times we start over in the numbers.
Yeah.
And a couple of years ago, um, this gentleman I knew calls me up, and he's looking for someone to give him some training on the numbers, because he was supposed to go work at a university, but that fell through. He had to run his own business practice. And at the time, he knew nothing on the business side. It's so fascinating. 2 years later, his business savviness, his acumen on the whole numbers and metrics and even strategies is like huge. Maybe it's reflected in his income, because after encountering me, we've repriced him and he's making 4 times what he was making
Oh,
2 years
wow.
ago. So very, very successful. It's so interesting when I talk to him, because it's like I'm still explaining to him like it's 101, and he's like a graduate level now on business savviness.
Hmm.
So this stuff really works, and it will get you there.
Yeah, because you simplified it down so much to these are the two things you have to focus on. And yeah, those two things do encompass a lot, but if you keep your head to, I need to understand the numbers and I need to have my direction clear, you figure out the rest behind all of that. But if you focus on those two things, you're in a pretty good position as a leader and
Yeah,
as a business professional with some, hopefully some business savviness.
right. So I came across this article by Harvard Business Review, Build a Pipeline of Business Savvy Leaders. And the whole purpose of the article was, and what they were arguing was, you want business savvy thinking in your organization. And I would completely agree with that.
Yeah,
Another way to say that, guys, is I want everybody in the company thinking like a business owner. Well,
yeah,
you're
that makes a lot of sense.
implying the business owner has business savviness when you say that.
Yeah.
And they don't usually. But anyhow, so the research revealed a body of, so I'm going to read this. The research revealed a body of knowledge called business acumen that defined what leaders should know about their organization, and they put it in 3 categories. And I thought it'd be fun, AJ, just to kind of go through those 3 categories with you:
Okay.
strategy, market, and finances.
That seems like everything we just talked about.
Yeah, in fact, some of their things are a little limiting. So strategy, they go the plan to create value and acquire resources stuff and deliver. So they're getting into the nitty-gritty of the strategy, where it's like, but where are you headed? You know, you got to know where you're headed so you know how to answer these questions. So it's really good questions to come up with strategies for, but you just, so anyhow, they kind of miss a little big picture there. I thought that was kind of fun. But then the market stuff we were talking about, that to me, they broke into a separate category, which that's fine. But honestly, that's all the conditions you're going to have to navigate through if you've got direction.
And then the last one, finances, they just say the financial health and outlook, how it makes money, invest capital, drives growth. I feel like it's a little more than that.
It is, like I said, they're metrics. I haven't ever worked in leading a company where we didn't use other metrics, non-financial metrics.
Yeah. And so basically what this list on the Harvard Business Review seems to me, it seems to be like these seems to be part of those 2 bubbles I just talked about.
Uh-huh.
This seems to be the stuff that's in the weeds of these 2 bubbles, but they're not telling you the real 2 things you need to focus on. Because when they say finances is just a subset of numbers, because like you also said, there should be other numbers. You should have a customer satisfaction score of some type. You should be able to quantify how much your customers like coming to your business. And that's not a financial number.
Yeah. So yeah, I completely agree with you. So what AJ's really saying here is, go to my website, look at my approach, and then plug in that Harvard Business Review article for the granular details.
Exactly.
So how do you get some of this business savviness? You can't order it on Amazon.
But you can work on it, and you can, if you just focus on understanding your numbers and mapping out your direction and answering all the questions you can think of to be able to manage those 2 silos properly. You eventually, over time, you'll get some business savviness.
Yeah, I agree. That's true. And I was thinking about this and wondering, is there something I could give that's practical? So I've got something I'd like you guys to try to develop your sense of numbers, particularly on the financial stuff first. And that is, there's something called the balance sheet. So you have a P&L, profit and loss statement, and a balance sheet. Rarely do I find entrepreneur business owners looking at the balance sheet. They don't know what it means or anything like that. And if you do, congratulations, you're awesome. So here was my idea. Take one line of the balance sheet a week. So you don't need to spend a lot of time on this. So the first one is cash or checking or something like that. And look at the last 6 to 12 months balances on a weekly basis. And what I want you to notice is the pattern. What happened? Did it go up? Did it go down? Did it stay the same? What happened to the cash? And you, being the entrepreneur business owner, are going to know what happened last January or back in October or whatever. And you actually have business acumen You just need to, we're just getting it activated. Okay. And you know the ebbs and flows of your business, you know the seasonal highs and lows and all that kind of stuff. So you start with cash, and probably the next item is going to be accounts receivables, and you just work on down the balance sheet. Start at the top, and each week just take one of those categories and just look at the balances. Don't get too deep into the details. Just start to look at patterns, and as you go week from week to week, start going like, well, wait a minute. Why did cash suddenly go up? Well, you get down into liabilities and you realize, oh, that's when we got that loan. Uh, no wonder the cash went up. We borrowed money. Okay.
Yeah.
And so because you have credit line maybe or something like that. So there's dynamics happening inside of the balance sheet and inside the company, and there's exterior things going on as well. And so just start getting a feel for that and start looking for patterns, and you're going to be amazed at how much understanding that's going to bring you. I think you'll learn a lot, and I'd love for you to let me know. You can contact me on the livetrulyfree.com site or in the comments here, wherever, but would love to hear what you start to find out.
Would you have a recommendation for how to map your direction or how people can get started on that?
Yeah, I've got a couple of simple ways you can start, a few ways. One is answer a couple of questions, and they're simple. Where are you headed? So that gets us into the direction, and how are you going to get there? And that takes you into strategy. I'd really love for you to check out our podcast. It was number 20, not too long ago, Breakthrough Barriers to Succeed Using Great Strategy. And it's about my next level navigator that's in the book, The Next Level Entrepreneur. So try all those things. And until next time, may you live truly free.